Family, I have had a few requests to do a cooking show. For those of you who don't know, I love cooking. I picked it up as a hobby, kind of over quarantine, when I didn't have much else to do apart from like raise money to go on an internship and hang out with my family. So I got decent at cooking a few meals, and I also worked in the kitchen at my school for 2 years. This is a trademark Ghanaian meal. Every Ghanaian knows this food, that I'm going to prepare today. So yeah, I just wanted to make a little vlog style thing of me cooking and talking to you guys about my life. So let's get into it. These are my ingredients. These are black-eyed peas, or black-eyed beans rather. They are kind of the main part of the dish. This is red oil. It's a kind of oil that we don't have in the States. It's made out of palm nut. So yeah, this is another very important part. And then we have onions, garlic, and tomatoes. Sweet. You want to get a better shot? Actually, you know what, before we do that, yeah, this is going to be a little on the nose, just as we go. So we've already done part of the process here. You have to pick out all of the bad beans. And now what you do is you put it in a bunch of water and boil them until they're cooked. So we're gonna go ahead and do that in this pot. Everything else will end up going in that pot as well. This probably seems a little strange, but this is how they do the water here. They just put it in bags, they call them sachets. So we don't have clean water out of our tap, so unless I want to filter it, this is how I do it. These are really cheap. We can get 15 liters of sachets for 3 cedis and 50 pesos, which is about 50 cents. And you just bite open the corner, squeeze it in. So once you got your water and your beans in here, or rather, once you have the beans, you need to put enough water to cover it a little bit. Not unlike rice, I'd probably do 2 parts water, so 1 part's rice, or 1 part beans. Which actually 2 sachets is looking pretty good for that. I'm gonna put a little more in. Yeah, that's about good. Sweet. Now, I will get it burning. I think you're supposed to cook it on high. Put the lid on and let it cook. So while that's doing its thing, we're gonna come over here and prepare some vegetables. Start with the onion. These are actually really easy to do with this. You don't have to like dice them or julienne them. You just split them into quarters and then toss them in the pot. So as you can see, these are homegrown here in Ghana. They look a little different than the onions that we have in the States, but they are much more flavorful. And honestly, I have really sensitive eyes when it comes to onions, and these suck so bad for that. They make my eyes water more than most, so you actually might get a chance to see me cry. Yeah. Got my trash can set up over here off screen. That's where my hand keeps going. So today, just some small talk while I'm cutting fruit or cutting vegetables. Are onions a vegetable? Today we got home from Wali Wali, or more specifically, we got home from Salinga. Salinga is the name of a Fulani village that we stayed a couple nights in this week. And that's kind of a ministry that we've been hoping to get into for a while. We've been going to class to learn Fafulde for months now. And finally we actually got to do the ministry and stay with them for a little while. And honestly guys, it was a magical experience. It was incredible. It's what I've been dreaming of for quite a while now. In fact, the reason that I got into ministry to start with was because God gave me this vision of leading worship surrounded by brown people. And I didn't really know what that meant at first. But like the first time we ever went and visited them, I brought the guitar and ended up singing Jesus Loves Me with the kids. Or rather, I sang and they listened and danced. Look at this, I'm tearing up. It's so sweet. And it felt like such a completion, of what God showed me. So, it's something that's really been on my heart, and getting to go do it was deeply satisfying. The first or second time that I went, I ended up talking with one of the chiefs, and I got his go-ahead to go with the shepherds to take care of their cattle. And that was really, really cool. The chief in Fafulde, they call it Kananke. He gave me a Fafulde name, and he named me Shepherd, which was also incredibly impactful to me, because King David has always been kind of a role model, I've always just looked up to him so much. Ooh, I think this one's gone bad. Yeah, check that out. Can you see that? Hopefully the camera's focusing. That's pretty gross. Ooh! Yeah, so King David, he was a shepherd boy, before he was king. And being out in the field with the Duros this time, I ended up going with them. And we left at 2 a.m. and we're out and got back around 9:30, maybe 10 a.m. Which, to start with, was physically brutal, demanding beyond most things that I've done. I was in track in high school, but that doesn't really touch this. We went with, what do you think? Brandon's behind the camera, I'm addressing him. Probably more than 100 cows. I'm thinking maybe 150. Something like that. Just a lot. And me and two young boys shepherded or herded these cows across probably 15, 20 miles of African bush in the dark. It was insane. Genuinely one of the crazier things that I've experienced in my life. And in 2 weeks, I'm going to go back and do it with them again. And keep building this relationship with them, right? So, sleeping with the cows grazing nearby and doing my best to communicate with these, young shepherds through my broken Fafulde was a beautiful, beautiful experience. Yeah. And when I got to some shade, after we got back, I passed out on a tire and slept there for probably 2 hours, because that night I went to bed around 8 and didn't fall asleep very quickly, so I didn't really end up getting much of any sleep that night. Sorry, I dropped a little bit of onion there. And then that on top of the long, long night and day of walking was enough to really get me tired. Here, I'm gonna go check on the beans really quick, all right? Yeah. Looks like they're doing good. In fact, I think I'm gonna put a little bit more water in and turn the heat down. All the stoves here burn extremely hot. So it's kind of hard to cook things like we do in America because we do a lot of low heat cooking. And here they do a lot of soups, which is generally kind of high heat cooking, but even on low, I'll burn bread if I leave it on there for more than a minute, maybe even 30 seconds. It's just brutal. Yeah. Anyway, we'll leave that to do its thing. Where was I? So yeah, that was really cool. We were out until the sun came up, and then a little while longer. It took a long time for the cows to warm up to me. They were really kind of scared of me because they'd never seen a white guy before, likewise, the Fulanis had never seen a white man work. So it was really impactful for them. When I returned to the village, I was met by the chief standing there with such a big smile on his face. And, you know, a number of the other members of the tribe of the village. And they were beyond pleased that I had gone through with what I said I was going to do. Because they were very much doubting that I was going to be able to do it. In fact, when I first told them, they told me, no, you will die. And they were terrified of, you know, the fact that they knew that this was strenuous activity and they had never seen a white person do anything strenuous or even really heard of it outside of the action movies that we have. So, yeah, it was really cool. When I got back, the chief was really, really happy. He gave me some breakfast and told me that he promised me a cow. So he is going to give me a young cow from their village. And the cool thing about receiving cattle from a Fulani is that generally the cattle stays with the tribe. So other tribes here in Ghana do not really tend to cattle, right? A little background on the Fulanis, they're pastoralists. So they're nomadic pastoralists at that, actually. So they'll go from country to country with their cattle, going wherever the water is, and tending to their flock or to their herd, you know. And they keep more than just cows. They keep sheep and goats and chickens and guinea fowl. So other tribes don't really do that so much, which means that when a Fulani gifts you a cow, they'll keep it for you, and you can take its milk, you can take its offspring, and you can come to have it killed too. But it stays with them, which means that forever, right? Because I'm not gonna take that cow, I'm not gonna kill that cow forever. That cow and all of its babies will be known as my cattle in that village, which is so cool. That weekend we also showed the Jesus film, and they had lots of questions about theology, as Muslims always do. They think so deeply about doctrine. So even people who haven't really read the Bible want to know, for instance, how the Trinity works, how Jesus and the Father can both be God. And we talked through a lot of those things the best we could, by God's grace, you know. So yeah, that was our short little experience with the Fulanis this week, and I am so excited to return to them and spend more time with them. They were so hospitable. They fed us and let us work with their kids, and let us share our beliefs with them. And I was so blessed by their hospitality and by my opportunity to share the gospel and share how Jesus loves them, and to do it through living with them and doing work with them instead of just talking at them. At Bethany, at my Bible college, that's what we call the incarnational impulse of missions, which is a really big, fancy way to say when Jesus came, he came as a man, right? He came from heaven, from his place to our place, and he lived like us. So when we go to a new place, we need to live like them. We need to live like the people that we're trying to reach, because Jesus came and lived like us. So yeah, it was really cool. It was cool to see so many things come to fruition. Yeah. So that was the most recent experience that I had, and it was incredible. I think that's the kind of thing that will always stick with me. And just so you know, the name that he gave me, the chief, it translates to shepherd, like I said earlier, but the way that you say it in Fulfulde is Duro. And that's a name I will always bear proudly when I go into a village. Or whenever I can. It's kind of weird to tell an American that's your name, but it's kind of weird for me to tell a Fulani that my name's Tyler. So it's cool to have multiple names in different places. So if you want to point the camera down a little bit, as you can see, I've got a lot of lots of stuff cut up here compared to the amount of beans that we're using. And this is where a lot of the flavor of the dish comes from. You know, that and this red oil, it's a very hearty oil. It's delicious. I love it. And those things together kind of cover up the earthy taste of the beans, or complements it maybe, which makes for a really good dish. You know, this is the kind of thing that you can make at home if you can find red oil, or maybe figure out some sort of substitute for it. Red oil is a very, very thick and heavy oil because it has a lot of the palm fruit actually still in it. It's not just oil. So yeah, it's really good. I would recommend you guys trying it. Now finally, for the tomatoes, these ones I actually do want to wash them. The onions and the garlic, you can take the outer skin off, but with these you can't. So, you know, I actually think I should use all of it. If you would come with me to the sink. Yeah. So yeah, that was really cool for me. Before that, we were spending a lot of time in our classes, which was really great. But I'm honestly kind of glad that they're over. I loved language learning, but you know, we kind of got to the place where our teacher was at wit's ends with what to teach us. You know, she was showing up to class every day saying, "What do I teach you?" Right? Because we had learned a lot from her already. You know, so I feel like most of the learning lies actually in going to the village at this point. All right. Now, when my friend Olivia cooked this and showed me how to cook it, she put the entire tomato in there. But I am inclined to cut the tops off of it, mostly because I'm an American, and I really don't like that little hard bit. So if you want to be extra Ghanaian, you can leave the top on, but I would prefer to not eat any stem. These are really good fresh fruit. They taste amazing. I actually fried up a couple of these tomatoes with my egg sandwiches this afternoon for lunch. They are really good that way. Just a beautiful red. So, yeah. Awesome. And now, with the exception of the garlic, we take these to the pot. Turn the pot all the way down. Take the top off. This oven mitt that I left over here. And yeah, great. Whew. Yeah, so you just want to put them on top. I actually think that I want to test these beans because I'm seeing a lot of these skins have already come off. And I feel like they might be done cooking, which would be slightly unfortunate for us, not gonna lie. Oh no, we're fine. Those are definitely still al dente. So yeah, if you want to get an inside of the pot sort of picture here, what I'm doing is I'm just, gently resting all these in there, and this will allow them to cook a little bit. And here in about 5 minutes or so, I will return. I'm actually going to add a little bit more water to the pot as well, so that I can take all these out and blend them, which is interesting. Normally, a Ghanaian would use larger onions than these. These are pretty small, so maybe I should have only halved them because they're going to be a little hard to pull out, but that's okay. Yeah. So now this will go back on. And while that is doing its thing, we can go ahead and start the rice. So tonight I am only cooking for Brandon and myself, so I'm going to make 2 cups of rice. I'm sure the majority of you guys have already made rice in your life. This is no different than that. We have a rice cooker and soup cooker here. So I'm going to go ahead and measure out 2 cups of rice. And then we will go ahead and use 2 cups of water. and we're going to be using it as shea water again, because that's how it works here in Ghana. So, it just occurred to me that a lot of this video is the back of my head. And I know that the back of my haircut looks a little funny, but that's because I cut it myself. People here don't really know how to cut white people hair. I don't mean to not be PC saying it that way, but genuinely, like, I probably run into a white guy once every 2 weeks. And that's just because Tamale is a major city and we have some expatriates living here. Yeah, so people just don't get experience with cutting people's hair from different cultures, different ethnicities, so therefore it's a little subpar, and I'd rather just cut it myself, because I know that I'm not going to do as good of a job as a hairdresser back at home. Oh, this is a fun bit too. I'll finish this first. But I'll do a decent job at least, you know, I'm learning, it's a fun skill. Here, if you want to look at this really quick, this is how all the outlets here are. You have to turn them on. So when we first got here, all of these would shock us occasionally when we turn them on or turn them off. And that's because we had a grounding issue in our house. There was nowhere for the electricity to ground into, so instead it was grounding into our bodies and giving us pretty nasty little shocks every once in a while. That was terrible. I remember walking in here, we had a microwave set up connected to this plug, and I touched it, and it gave me a shock like no shock I've ever received. In fact, I was tased in college like twice by friends, you know, as like practical jokes or whatever. It wasn't fun, but it was funny. And this electrical shock was way, way more than any taser I've ever experienced. So that was fun. All right. The garlic here, because it's so small, we're just going to put it straight in the blender. So I'm going to go ahead and get the blender out. And I just realized something. Our blender is at the girl's house. So we're going to do this a little differently. I'm going to mince this. And then with these in here, because they're so small, I'll just mash the tomatoes and let the onion disperse itself as it cooks. So that'll end up being pretty good in its own right. Yeah. We don't have a whole lot of stuff in these homes, so you know, it's just kind of how missionary life goes, which I don't mind. You know, it's fun to live like a bachelor. In fact, most nights Brandon and I don't eat like fancy food like this. You know, like this is a good meal, but normally we would eat something like a tuna and rice or tuna fish sandwich or egg sandwiches. Do egg sandwiches a lot. That's one of my favorites. What else would we do? For a while, we were doing a whole lot of like fried foods, like samosas or chicken. We've stopped that recently because it started hurting my stomach. A lot of oil can do that to you. Anyway. Yeah. Start to smell that tomato and onion. It's gonna start smelling really good in here. I gotta keep a close eye on those beans though, because they will be done cooking here soon, and I cannot let them continue to cook because I'll burn the ones on the bottom. So yeah, gotta be careful. In fact, did I end up adding more water to that? I don't think I did. I should do that. Yeah. Just a little more water. So one of the major problems in Ghana, actually, while we're just hanging out and talking, is plastic. It litters the streets. It's everywhere. And it's because plastic actually wasn't really a thing in Ghana, like as recent as 25 years ago. It wasn't widespread and used by many people. What they used to wrap their food and sell their produce was banana leaves or plantain leaves. Because they're really big and you can wrap a lot in it. But with the arrival of easy to get plastic, it's made collecting those leaves and using them obsolete. It's really easy to find what they call rubbers to use, or that's in an American accent, rubber. But here they just call all plastic bags rubbers. It's really easy to find those, but to have like somebody go collect banana leaves for you to use every single day, it just doesn't work, you know. So with industrialization and commercialization of a lot of things here, plastic came as well, and it's because of that, because of the lack of infrastructure, we see it just littering the streets, littering the storm drains, all over the place, which is really tragic because Ghana is actually really beautiful. You know, there's a lot of places in Ghana that are extremely deserty and hot, like where we're living, but down in the south, it's actually a rainforest. And even here in the dry season, while I was out with those cows, with shepherds, I saw the most beautiful meadow, with wild fruits and plenty of green grass and beautiful green trees, unwatered by anybody, not owned by anybody, in the middle of the bush, you know. So Ghana is a beautiful place, you know, it's just polluted right now. Yeah. You know, that's another fun note, actually, while I was in the bush. The shepherds, we couldn't communicate very much. I learned a couple words from them. I learned ne'i, which is cow. I knew that one before, actually. And da. Da means listen, right? So those were the two things that we yelled at the cows to get them to listen to us. We'd yell ne'i, da, right? And depending on the intensity of your voice, the cow would respond. And it's amazing how smart these cows are. You know, they know when you're trying to get them to move somewhere, and they'll move in that direction most of the time. So yeah. Anyway, while we were in the bush, there were several times that the shepherds approached me with strange fruit, things that I've never seen before. You know, and just went right, which was their way of saying, "White man, eat this." So I obliged them, and they were honestly actually some of the best, like, strange fruit that I've had here. It's strange. A lot of the wild fruit in Africa has this like bitterness to it. It has this really kind of repugnant, bitter quality. But the ones that we had in the bush, one of them was totally bland, no flavor at all. It was bright yellow and didn't taste like anything, but it was refreshing and kind of cool. So when you're thirsty in the bush, you know, it's a cool thing to eat. And then the other thing that I tried was this weird little hard, almost nut that was hanging off of a tree. And I went, and he said, "No, don't bite it," right? So I put it in my mouth, and I started sucking on it, and it's almost like a hard candy, right? It tastes kind of like mozzarella. It tastes like molasses, right? And it has that bitter quality to it as well, but it's also sweet, and it was really good. So I was excited to get to try a couple new things out there. It's always fun to try new things, especially in the company of people who have already tried them. They were very happy to see my reactions. So yeah, that was fun. All right, this is cut up, so I'm gonna go ahead and just put it in now so we get some time to soften. So on top. Another really interesting thing that happened while I was out was one of the cows got stuck, which I'm sure is, you know, something that happens once in a blue moon, and it just so happened to be during the first time that I went that it happens as well. So we were on the edge of a riverbank, right, and there was this groove where the water had eaten through a portion of ground, right, and then because it's the dry season, the river fades away, and there's just this hole here, right? And the hole was roughly cow-shaped, right? And it was perfectly sized for a cow to fall into and not be able to move his legs and be stuck, right? So this is I don't know how much cows weigh. It must be 400, 500 pounds. You know, this was a full-grown, fattened cow. And we start pulling on this guy, and we can't get him. You know, we can't move him, right? So what they start doing is they grab him by the horns and lift him up and flop him over on his other side, managing to get him mostly out of the crack that he was in. And at this point, they take my machete and start hacking at the ground next to the cow, starting to free up its legs a little bit. And as soon as the cow got free, he starts kicking and tossing his head, and I grab one of the younger shepherds that's with us. There was only 2 shepherds, but I grabbed the younger of the 2 and yanked him out of the way as quick as I could, and just, rolled to the ground away from the cow so that we didn't end up getting kicked or gored. Worse. So yeah, that was something. That was really cool. Loved that. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next bit of the process. I am going to grab these tomatoes, which should be nicely softened by now, and mash them up. Now normally, well actually genuinely, I don't know how Ghanaians normally do this. This might be the way that they normally do it. There's a lot of food that they pound and mash in this culture. But the way that our friends did it was she put it into a blender, which I would agree is much more convenient. So let's just try a whisk and hope it works. Yeah. Oh yeah, that works great. So yeah, after the cow managed to get up and walk around a little bit, me and the shepherds looked at each other, astonished, kind of, like something crazy had happened and we survived it. It was fun. And I'm sure that kind of thing happens somewhat regularly, but it was cool that I got the chance to take part in a little emergency with them. Yeah, here we go. Here's our tomato mash. I'm looking at it now and I'm wishing I had more tomato, but I don't think I have any more tomatoes. I think that was it. Yeah, all I've got is onions and some garlic. That's fine. This will be a slightly less tomato-y red. Okay, so let's go ahead and check the beans, see if they're done. And if they are, I'll go ahead and take out the water, the rest of it. Nope. Need some more time. Alright. That's fine by me. So I'll go ahead and stir this up a little bit. Put the lid back on and let it go for a second. Let's see if there's anything else I can think of doing. So there's a few other things that you put in this. A lot of Ghanaian dishes, you put ginger, right? And you would expect it to taste gingery, but it adds this kind of zest, which is really nice. And they would actually cut up some local peppers. I don't have any local peppers today, so we're gonna use fresh red pepper. And then my lovely girlfriend got me some pink salt for my birthday. So I'll use the pink salt in it as well. Apart from that, you've got the onions and the garlic that is in here. I think I'm actually probably going to go ahead and add a little more garlic and a little bit more onion powder because those things tend to make everything better. So, yeah. Do I have any more stories for y'all? Something that's interesting is if I walk around town here wearing my hat. Here, let me go grab it actually. Come on. Yeah. Pardon the mess. So if I walk around town wearing my hat, right, and I have a walking stick with me, strangers on the street will shout at me, "Fulani, Fulani!" right? Because in this culture, it's negative to be a Fulani. The Fulanis are uneducated, dirty. So I don't think those things, but that's what the other tribes folk think of them. So in some places, Fulanis are spat on when they walk by other people in the street. In other places, they're accepted more, but still kind of looked down on. The Dagombas here in Tamale actually have kind of a symbiotic relationship with the Fulanis, which is great. The Dagombas will give the Fulanis their cattle to take care of, and the Fulanis will take food, farming stuff from the Dagombas, and there's this little cultural exchange that's happening there. So they're accepted more here, which is beautiful. But we took a short trip out to a Kakomba village, and the pastor that was with us actually like launched into a diatribe against this particular group of people about how they treat Fulanis, about how they spit at them and insult them because of their social status. So, and while it is true that many Fulanis do not read, it's also true that they are some of the most ingenious people I've ever met in my life. They know how to solve problems without all of the modern equipment that we use for everything that we do from day to day. We were going to use this as a tripod for the camera. Yeah, they solve problems, they know how to talk to their cattle and like command the cattle. It's actually part of modern Fulani myth in other tribes. Other tribes believe that the Fulanis can talk to their cattle and make them attack people, or that the Fulanis can turn into cows. There's a lot of funny little things like that with the people here, and I think that there are so many folk tales about the Fulanis because of how widespread they are. Right? They're in all of West Africa. The Fulanis that we know, they speak Fulde from Burkina Faso, which is a different country, right? And they just live here. There's only 5,000 Fulanis in Ghana. That's what the Joshua Project estimates. So they're a very small people group here, but they're very well known because of how much they travel and how spread out they are. The Fulde itself originates in Niger, and that's where a great number of Fulanis live. But here we have a small amount. And that is probably in part because of how they're treated here in Ghana. They're not treated well. And that's because to the Ghanaians, the Fulanis are illegal aliens of a sort. They come over the border without asking, take land without asking sometimes, and live here without paying taxes, doing the, I don't know if you can see that on the camera. Oh, I just fell off the ceiling. That was funny. Wow. We have lizards everywhere. They're house lizards. The Ghanaians are terrified of them. They won't touch them. They say that they're poisonous. Little do they know there's only one species of venomous lizard, and it's not actually, like, it's not an innate poison. It's the Komodo dragon. It's because they eat poisonous things. Anyway, so yeah. The Fulanis, right? They're so widespread and so well traveled that many people have had time to interact with them, but not so much that they actually get to know the Fulanis, right? They just hear about them or see them on the street as they pass. So if a Fulani passes with his cattle, right, people will think I shouldn't mess with the Fulani because if I do, they'll kill me, right? Or they'll send their cattle on me, so I shouldn't pursue them, right? But in Ghana, there's this history of conflict between farmers, Dagomba farmers, and Fulanis. Because the Fulanis, they listen to their cattle, right? So if the cattle want to eat somebody's farm, they'll let them, which, is somebody's property, right? So naturally, it'll really enrage the Dagombas that have just lost a certain amount of their crop to these cows. So in turn, they'll either attack the cows or they'll attack the Fulani, and violence will ensue, right? I think that I read a study about it recently. I think it was between 2000 and 2016. There were like 19 violent conflicts in the news, at least, between Fulanis and Dagombas. In almost every one of those instances, somebody was killed. So the media likes to paint the Fulanis in this really negative light, which is tragic. They're marginalized in a real way. I think we talk about marginalization a lot in America, and it happens in America for sure. It's just the way that it happens here. The Fulanis don't have rights in Ghana. They're not Ghanaian citizens. They don't get to vote. They don't get education unless they go for it. So like the Fulanis who live nearby a school will send as many children as they can to school, but more than 80% of Fulanis don't read, can't read, have never been taught to read, right? So they're really kind of overlooked here in Ghana, and it's I feel for them a lot because of that. If you come with me, I think the beans might be ready by now. Talked enough. Cross your fingers, y'all. I really don't want to add any more water. give one to Brandon, because they might be a little al dente still. I think they're just about good though. Say hi to everybody, Brandon. Yeah? Okay, cool. So we're gonna call that good. Perfect. The timing is perfect. So at this point, what we're gonna do is we're gonna add in our tomato mash right into the pot, just like that. And then we will add our red oil. Now, I know that I'm not being quite precise with my measurements. That's because the Ghanaians are not super precise with their measurements. Oh, I made a terrible mistake. I forgot to mix it up. The red likes to separate out. So it's okay. I'm almost certainly going to use all of this bottle anyway, but it's very important to mix it up. Yeah, that's great. So as you can see, that was a lot of oil. That's just kind of how it works. Very good. Yeah. So the reason that they call it red is because you use red oil, red tomatoes, and red peppers. It makes a very pretty dish. This is a little less red because we used a little less tomato. Actually, I might check the cabinet and see if we have any canned tomato left. I don't think we do. I'm gonna add some red pepper, give a little bit of that spice. There we go. Yeah, it's getting pretty. Now we add our ginger. You can be a little more liberal with the ginger. It's good to get enough. The Ghanaians will use not powdered ginger and just cut off probably a couple square inches. And it makes for a very, very good and zesty kind of meal, which I really enjoy. This is probably my most favorite Ghanaian meal. Yeah. Yeah, it smells like red. Okay, now for the salts. And this one, really, I am just eyeballing it. I am criminally bad at salting food. I either oversalt or undersalt every time. Remember, folks, it's better to undersalt than oversalt. You can't fix oversalting. So hopefully that is about good. And now for the onion powder. And the garlic powder. I already have onion and garlic in here. I just want to, overdo it a little bit. These are really great flavors. All right. Sweet. Yeah, that's starting to smell really good. Okay. Now I will taste it. Needs more salt. Sorry for being quiet, y'all. Focusing. All right. It smells so good. So for any of you who will be in Minnesota and or Texas, if you ask me to, I'll make this for you. You just have to find the red oil. That's the only deal. I found it on Amazon. It's actually not too expensive either. It's like from an African heritage type site. So I'll be able to actually make you some good red because the rest of these ingredients you can find easy in America. It won't be quite the same because I got all of these from an old woman who got them in turn straight from farmers. So they're all really fresh and really good because refrigeration's not super common here either. So anyway, this is really, really good. We can probably make it that good in the States if we buy fancy smancy hippie ingredients, maybe a little too on this. So, let's go check on the rice and see how it's doing. Rice is on its way. It's got a little bit longer still. My dad always taught me to clean it as you go. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that into practice here because I'm certain that he is watching. Just put the trash can on the countertop for this because it makes it a lot easier than running around. And as you can see, we don't have an oven and we don't have a dishwasher. So we wash all of our dishes by hand and we don't do any oven cooking. We also don't have a laundry machine. Technically, we have a washing machine, that's what you call it. But it's broken and it's been broken since we got here. So we haven't used it and there's nobody that we can find who's willing to work on it. So we've just washed by hand or taken it down the street to somebody who will wash it by hand for us. Yeah, now I'm just gonna let it cook for a little while some of this liquid cooks off. You know, red is a little thicker. I think that just one of these 2 bottles will be good. These bottles were 5 cedis each, so kind of like 80 cents-ish. Little more than 80 cents. No, a little less. I don't remember. The conversion is 5.8 to 1. So do the math. Yeah, let's see. I've been talking for a minute, you guys. I'm not used to this. This is kind of fun. I miss all of you so much. You know, that's something I can talk about. You know, it's been really cool to be here. I think I'm actually adjusted. We've been here for almost 4 months, and it did take about that long for me to actually get through culture shock. We're at the point where I'm no longer anxious in the culture, no longer anxious when I'm interacting with people. I do get irritated sometimes still. Ghanaian culture is extremely different than American culture, right? When you pass somebody on the street here, if you acknowledge them, they kind of expect you to give a little bit of your time, right? Meanwhile, in the States, for the majority of the States, the most you'll get from somebody is just a hello, a wave, a nod, how are you doing, what's up? You know, we keep our greetings pretty short. But here, you know, they want to stop. They want to talk to you, you know, so they'll say, Antre, which is good evening or good afternoon. And you'll say, nah, right? And then they'll say something along the lines of, Kabula, right? Which is, how are you? And you'll say, Diso, or Alafi. And then th'll go into Yingbewula, right? Or how is home? And you'll say, Alafi. And then they'll say, Apa Bewula, right? Which is, how is your wife? To which I will respond, Nakapa. Don't have a wife. No woman. Well, I have a woman, but I don't have a wife yet. And then they'll say Nakapa, right? Because they're surprised, you know, because I'm a somewhat attractive 20-something-year-old. Oh, more than that, a white man, which is extremely desirable here in this country. Which, after that, they'll either try to set me up with a woman, to which I'll explain that I have a girlfriend, or they'll simply say, Namunita pa, right? Which is, God will give you a wife, which I'm always thankful of. So, yeah. We're fixing on getting done here. Just a little bit more time. Yeah. I do love talking with the Ghanaians. In fact, I really like how warm this culture is now, willing everybody is to talk to you. You know, like, it's cool. It is just kind of a lot some days. You know, if I've already had to wake up early, do a bunch of chores, run around, like, just the day-to-day life here is strenuous. You know, there's a lot to do. In America, I can toss my dishes in the dishwasher, right? That cuts out, like, an hour of work. I can throw my clothes in the clothes washer. That cuts out, like, an hour or 2 of work. And, like, there's just so many of those little things that we can do that make life so much easier and quicker in America. And here, a lot of things take a lot of time, right? So stopping and giving somebody 10 minutes of your time sometimes feels like a chore. But I try to always do it, always talk to people, you know, especially these my neighbors around here. It's good to always use the niceties because that's an incredibly important part of their culture, right? If you don't greet them in their language, most of the time they'll just look at you like an outsider altogether. But worse than that, if you don't greet them in their language and then immediately ask them something in their language, they'll treat you like they would treat a Ghanaian who did that, which is, you don't care about being nice to me, right? And they'll get offended, right? So, like, for instance,
recently I went to a shop, right? And I had just jumped out of the yellow, right? So there's somebody waiting on me in their version of like an Uber. I jumped out of their version of an Uber and went into this shop, right? And I immediately asked, how much is this? Can I buy this, right? Instead of stopping and greeting the shopkeep, right? And one of the men there chided in and said, you should greet her, right? So I took the time to greet her, which I actually appreciated him correcting me. But you know, I was in a hurry and I was thinking like an American, so I didn't stop to do that. So it's just a lot of those little things. A big part of getting through culture shock is just kind of letting go of the way that you think about things and think about how time should pass and how quickly things should get done. Because, you know, at the end of the day, it's just not going to happen here. It's not going to happen like you want it to if you're wanting it to happen like it happens in America. That smells good. Okay. Hot steam. Rice is, I think, done actually. So I can go ahead and dish up some of this and show you just how pretty red is. So normally red is either eaten with rice. It can also be, I think actually I've only ever had it with rice, but it can be eaten with rice. It can also be eaten with plantains and something called gari, which is made out of couscous, right? I think the girls told me that gari is made of couscous. It's this really weird kind of like, it feels like somebody took all of the cuttings from corn that aren't the corn, like the corn stalk and the leaf and all that, let it get really dry and then ground it up. And then re-moisturized it so that you could eat it. A really weird experience, not gonna lie. Yeah. But anyway, it's really good with the red. You just put a little bit on top, kind of like you do mozzarella cheese with spaghetti. Yeah. I'm actually gonna let this cook a little longer. I just want to dish some up so you guys can see it. There you go. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is traditional Ghanaian red. Cooked by yours truly, the resident white dude here in the neighborhood, Tyler Rogers. So I'm loving getting to do these things here and take part in the culture, learn how to do the things that they do, and learn how to do things in the way that they do it. It's not always easy for me. A lot of the time I will take my clothes down the street to get somebody else to do it for me because that particular day is too busy, or I just want to, you know, accomplish things quickly like I can accomplish things in the United States. But other times I do take the time to do what I should be doing as a missionary. It's really taking part in the culture, you know. So thank you for spending a little bit of time with me. I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed being able to update you guys and show you how to cook red. You're always welcome to reach out to me. I hope that this offered you a little peek into how I live here and the things that I'm doing day to day. I'm really happy that I got to share with you about the Fulani village and the things that happen there. So I think I'm actually going to pray and then we'll close out and I can talk to you guys whenever I talk to you. So if you bow with me. Holy Father, thank you for the way that you guide us. Thank you for guiding me here and thank you for all the supporters that sent me. Father, I looked to you and I said, Father, send me, I will go. And you did. You did not pull your punches. Thank you for that. Thank you for responding to me and doing that. I pray that you would be with every single one of your children, especially all the people that have sent me here. That you would bless them as they have blessed me. We love you, Father. We love your Son. We love fulfilling your commandments. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be a missionary and giving all of your children the opportunity to send people out so that we can all do it together. You're an amazing Father. Thank you. Amen. Well, hey, thank you guys. I'll talk to you sometime soon. This is Tyler signing out. Bye.